they choose to do so. Liquid with an overzealous dive there, not losing anybody, but the side lanes giving a lot to that Tiny as well as that IO. And we know the timing, it's all about just waiting for IO to get not only Aghanims, but get that level 15 count. That's what OG wants.
He's diving in. Onto Kuro with the flak as well. Hand of God will not keep Chen alive today.
GH will not get TP'd out. Jarex actually TP's in and gets the toss up at the exact timing.
And OG's actually not done, as they are still hunting for action. Miracle the focus. Thompson's got a DD. A power shot does come out. Lands on Thompson.
A bit too aggressive there from Thompson. He'll throw down the call down just to clear the
the Shack actually reaches across the trees, but no tell. He's there with a shield. Thompson goes for the TP out. The focus fired and out the damage. It's not enough. Thompson save. A spray on the way out. Thompson will escape. Liquid, it's 9-6 in their favor, but the net worth difference, it's pretty much even. As you say, sure, Liquid, they are bringing the aggression, finding the kills, but space is being given to those important members of OG.
Yeah, especially Ana, halfway to that Aghanims already. Level 11 finished up. He's got the Spirit supplied slow, so he can fight as soon as he has that Aghanims, of course, with the talent, but the big one is that 15, that extra Spirit hero damage that does come out. But yeah, look at this immediately. Seb now positioned up top. He wants to push the top tower as soon as Liquid is positioned in mid. And Jarex already looking to set up down toward the bottom lane. Liquid have to just get these towers. Have to get some type of map advantage here.
Once Ana has the Aghanims, things are going to start getting very tricky for Liquid when they turn up like this.
Yeah.
The spirits will be out.
Yeah, and they have Bristle. That's a good thing, right? Bristle can be good versus the IO. If you can get on top of him, the goo. You don't have the highest armor traditionally on the IO, but he's versus an actual counter. Timbersaw, very good versus Bristle back at all stages. It's just that farm game, OG.
Got mind control. Looking towards Seb up top, but it's hard really for these heroes without the shackle shot or GH getting a...
Radiant team ban. VG Gaming's turn to ban. Radiant team ban. Seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. VG Gaming's turn to Radiant team ban. VG Gaming's turn to ban.
All right, I'm going to welcome back. We are here for the first draft of this best of 3 between Sparking, Arrow Gaming, and Vici Gaming. It is MLP Dota and John X Fire. John, we're in for the night, sir. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. You know, there was some downtime because the first series ended pretty fast, but looking forward to how this one goes. Now, Sparking Arrow Gaming has only played 2 series, so I don't think their position is the most accurate. They are in the middle, but there's potential for them to climb higher. And it's going to be a big hurdle for them, right? VG, they've played 6 series so far. They've won 4, they've lost 2. They're only behind EHOM. So they're definitely up there in the top 2. There's a lot to prove here for Spark, and they did come in from promotion as well. So they're not as established just yet, but they have a lot of potency. I would love to see what they can bring out.
The last CD.
10 seconds remaining.
They were one of the teams that actually won. I know they were promoted from the last time. Regardless, they're a pretty good team. They want to,
Team pick.
and they could certainly pull off an upset here up against VG Gaming. I think we can both agree that VG are still looking to be the favorites in this matchup.
Yeah, it's pretty I think the one thing that they have to watch out for is they've got to play their own game. I think that's something consistent when you're playing up against a team like VG. They do have a pretty strong pickup already up against that Treant. The Rubik is going to give you a lot of value. So your lanes are going to be pretty darn good with whatever you throw to Rubik with. And as the game develops, as time goes on, you're going to be able to steal the big ultimate that Treant has. You're going to be able to steal that huge overgrowth. Not going to be the hardest spell for the Rubik to take, and that's a big potency for Spark Arrow Gaming to kind of have that turnaround to fight. So it's going to be pretty darn good there. They pick up the Abaddon as well, which is something we don't see too often now in the support or core role. In fact, I think it still shows up as a core, but you definitely don't see it too often as a support. So they do kind of set themselves up for durable lanes to kind of counteract whatever VG might have, and it would be interesting to see how VG responds to that. They go with a Phoenix with a Treant, that strong teamfight potential, so Overgrowth and Egg at once can really take control. I love the ban out from SAG though. That Void would have been too good with this kind of lineup, and they just take it out before there's an opportunity to pick it up.
Yeah, I can appreciate that as well. They definitely don't want to have to deal with that Void. I'm gonna say, you know that Abaddon pick, John, it looks kind of weird, but that hero is really potent in the offlane still. Like, it's still very, very hard to deal with this Abaddon as a position 3. I guess Void would have been one of those decent heroes up against the Abaddon because you can just time walk a lot of the damage off, but regardless, Sparking Arrow now, they do pick up Lena. And I question, it's obviously a very flexible pick here from the side of Sparking Arrow. There is a potential that they could run the POS 4 Lena in this case if they really wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's super value if they actually go that way. Like, you toss it on the bot, on the off lane, or up against wherever the Treant's at, you're going to be clearing those trees with Light Strike Array, so you lose the potency of the Treant just walking up and right-clicking you. You're not going to have that leeway. I think just looking at it from that perspective for the lanes, the lane is going to give you so much value. And the flexibility of it, of course, means that VG has to kind of watch out for what they commit to their mid pick if they opt for it, or even their offlane pick, right? Like, the Lena has so much damage to pump out as POS 4 that it can really turn lane. So you want to have some sort of flexibility here for VG as well, but it does feel like they've kind of locked themselves into their 2 supports. So perhaps look for cores that shouldn't mind facing up against Lena, whether as a POS 4 or even as a mid laner. You just want something that deals with her fine, but it's just such a value pick for SAG. I think getting that burst damage out fast is going to be great, especially since you're looking at the living armor to cause issues there, so you're just going to burst right through that. That alone just lets the Lena work her magic quite early on.
Well, VG Gaming, they seem to agree. They're having quite a bit of a think about where they're heading with this draft, and it may be due to the fact that Sparking Arrow, they have such a flexible draft going on already. It'd be kind of hard to know what they're up to. Don't want to fall into any traps here by Sparking Arrow. And VG Gaming definitely, I believe, respect the potential that could come out of this team. There's always a lot of you've got to consider the fact that there's not much known about SAG. In comparison to teams like LGD and IG, you don't know much about what kind of strategies they like to run yet. So VG do have to be a little bit careful, but they do go for a very safe offlane in Centaur War Runner now. So not really revealing too much themselves, just keeping it fairly standard. I suppose if SAG really wanted to, they could think about this for a long time now.
They've got a lot more reserve time, so they can tick that down. I think the Centaur into Rubik, tricky. Like, Rubik will almost always grab that Stampede if you're not careful. So your initiation here from VG, you probably don't want to start with the Cent. I think you'd best start off with the Treant first, never start with Stampede. Otherwise, if Rubik's around, you're going to be playing against SAG with Stampede potentially, and that could really work against you in that case. Even if right now SAG doesn't quite have the best team fight, it's really riding on that Rubik, and there are so many potent spells to steal from VG's lineup, so they're just giving a little bit more value to that early Rubik pickup here.
Yeah, they definitely are. But at the same time, you can't just pick heroes with no spells, right? Like you've got to draft something. So we'll say VG that they're just waiting for Sparking Arrow now, who are trying to make their own fourth pick, and this should reveal a lot more about their draft and what position these heroes are playing in. I still do believe it is a POS 3 Abaddon. I don't think they're on a POS 5.
No, it's not as magical as it once was. Without the self-deny, you just lost so much of its impact as a support. Like, it can still sustain, but you're gonna have to refresh with a death, and that just gives a little bit to the lane, a little bit more than you'd want. So the value is certainly mitigate in that sense, and the range for the heal spam is slightly less, so you have to be much closer to your core, which can kind of drag away from that. I like the Terrorblade pickup for SAG though. There's really not quite much in VG to deal with that. Like, the best solution they have is the Phoenix magic damage. That's going to be a constant. VG does immediately pick up the Zeus, so they do have a way of consistently going through that Terrorblade's early armor now by just going magic. It's a strong response in that sense. You do have to watch out, of course, Rubik. I mean, I keep going back to the Rubik, but there's just so much value here for the Rubik. Like, as long as you get your level 6 at a decent time, I can't see any situation where SAG is going to be lacking any sort of control just off the back of the Rubik and potentially the Lina support.
Assuming's dead. Like, look,
assuming's not dead.
Yeah. VG Gaming, they do finish off with a Troll, which is always interesting to me. You do see these Troll picks quite a bit against Terrorblades, and you'd assume that you wouldn't really want to go Troll because Terrorblade has such a high base armor. I suppose in some sense, VG, you're probably thinking, look, we're not even interested in trying to deal with this Terrorblade with the Troll. We're going to use the Zeus for that. The Ensnare can be quite nice up against that Terrorblade as well, I suppose. I never commented on the Terrorblade itself as well, John. I just hate seeing this hero in the meta right now. I think it's just so detrimental to your team when you have an ability that your hero cannot play without, and you have to revolve around that the whole time.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen Terrorblades being picked up, and it's just every time they need to have meta before they can do anything. Every time meta's off, guess what happens? The opposing team takes a Roshan, or they'll take a tower, or they'll go high ground. Every time. But you locked yourself into this metamorphosis timing. What are they going to
super sensitive.
DP after this? The DP's bad. Thank God for that.
I mean, that's the tendency we see with a Terrorblade, right? Like, we always see Terrorblade DP for push and team fight. The moment the Terrorblade plays from behind, it gets super hard. That's the one thing. They do pick up the Tide Hunter instead, so that is still a massive cooldown. You've still got to worry about the Ravage timing, and that can kind of play against you. Your big setups here are Tide and Rubik, really. So it does look to be Rubik Abaddon support duo, if I'm not wrong, and a mid Lina. Yeah, it's, I mean, look, it can still keep your chorus alive. It can still be super annoying in lane. It's just not as annoying as it once was. I don't think it's got a strong enough presence as is now. But if you play around it perfectly, then you can make it work. I'm not sure what dual lane you'd want for the Abaddon. Abaddon Terrorblade doesn't sound amazing. Abaddon Tide could possibly be better, but it's just tricky for the Abaddon, right? Like, his range for damage nukes is kind of low now at level 1 because it does scale. So
it's got a Rubik Tide. Like, you got Anchor Smash plus Spade Bolt. Like, that's just too much minor damage to not have. But
yeah, then you're stuck with like Abaddon Terrorblade. You can keep your Terrorblade alive, but there's certainly not much after that unless you get like an early level in your slow and just run it with Metamorphosis. That's one way to make that work.
I mean, Look, I'm on the same boat as you. I just don't think Abaddon is pos 5 anymore. But SAG disagree, and we're going to find out who's right in all this. SAG going to be running a very interesting lineup, a bit old school, my taste, but I don't mind seeing a bit of old school sometimes. VG game, much more standard, much more meta. We have seen a bit more of the Treant pop up in the current meta as well, John. Especially in the Chinese scene, I believe it was FY running the Living Armor build on Treant Protector, and it's kind of infuriating to go up against, right? Because you do some damage to a tower, and then there's this massive Living Armor just healing it back up all the way to full HP. You think you've killed a hero, you thought wrong. DY is going to heal them up all the way. It can be really infuriating to have to play against, and I suppose we'll have to wait and see what DY does opt to do on that tree. But it has slowly made its way back into the current meta.
It's just, I think there's a lot of value in having that. As you mentioned, of course, the D push is great, at least installing out the push. With a hero like Troll, it's just yours hit 6. Right? Like, you living armor when he goes into a battle trance, he's going to be recovering a lot of. He's just ready to jump in after it. So that's only one way to play around that. It's just disruptive. Like, you know, having nature's guys running around that lane, it's never fun. You don't have to worry about Lina as well, since that is core. So you're not going to have that Lina clearing out trees in your lane. Should be easier for DY to get that harassment out.
Should. He should have an unpause coming any time now. Just waiting on the side of Ichi, and yeah, they'll give the go-ahead. It's going to be very important for Ori on that Zeus to have a good game as well. Yeah, he can't really afford to lose his lane too hard, especially considering they are really solely relying on him to deal with the Terrorblade. So it's going to be very, very important. We see a decent Ags timing if he does opt to go for that, which I'm sure he will. Get a nice Ags going for yourself. Just snowball from there if you're worried.
Yeah, it's a really old school mid matchup. You talk about old school drafts. Lina Zeus is really not something we see too often anymore. Like, this takes me back, but 3-4 years ago? It feels like it's been that long since both of these heroes really shined in mid, but it's always a treat to see that classic matchup.
Back in my day, John, back in Dota 1, there was such a thing as Lich Mid. I don't know if you can remember that far back. I was part of a little bit of an amateur team, and my captain would always make me play Lich Mid. Every time, without a doubt. He thought Chain Frost was the greatest ability in the game.
Oh man. That is super old school though. Like, damn.
Good times. Felix gonna make a very early rotation down mid, but just double checking to make sure there's not a ward on the left side. Nice little trick you can do with these supports, just running behind the trees, and if there's a ward you'll get hit by the tier 1, and if there's not, you won't get hit. Free money.
Definitely. You also have to know there is some movement coming out from VG, so they actually had Eurus walk down, and you see Yang walk top. So a bit of a lane swap there from VG, and they save out in their key piece. If they want to swap again, they're going to have a one-step advantage.
That's fair though, right? Like, you don't really want the Centaur up against the Tide. Just going to make it a dead lane, essentially. Like, it's just going to be two tanky boys just looking at each other the whole time, trading farm. You'd rather have Eurus down there because he can actually be in range form and make OP God's life very, very hard. And people tend to underestimate damage Troll can deal even in the early stages of the game. Like, he is very frustrating to lane against.
Yeah, it is a fair bit, and his spells are fairly spammable as well. You know, it's very cheap, just like 50 mana, does decent damage at a good range, and with PYW around, the DOT damage is really good as well.
Yeah. So we do see the Terrorblade and Red Panda up top on the Abaddon. They're going to make a case onto DY, but DY should be perfectly fine, just run into his trees. Red Panda's not giving up though. Very, very aggressive plays from this Abaddon. Just letting his presence to be known up against this this Bo3. DY does go for the level 2 living armor, so the likelihood is he probably will go the living armor this game.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to, because you're seeing the aggression from Red Panda every single time. He's just gonna run up to you. Once he has a level in the curse, you're not gonna be able to run away. So you're gonna have to watch out for that. You want to track them away. You know, Yang is still finding good farm because Red Panda's more concerned about the tree, and that's exactly what you want.
They are going to make a bit of a jump up here onto Red Panda. He should be okay. Mid lane, or he's been having a very, very rough time on the Zeus. So he continues to take a lot of harassment from DD on the lane. You know, but that's kind of to be expected. In fact, he hasn't even gone for point and arc lightning, which is also sort of the way that Zeus is just played these days, right? Like, you just don't tend to waste your time with arc lightning, but rather just have lightning bolt to spam out, and DD now going to be the one to force to sell up, and I have a feeling one of these two heroes is going to die pretty darn soon.
Yeah, it's really just down to a regen game so far. This is hurting Ori so much more. Doesn't even, nowhere near the bottle, is flying out a new set of regen, and DD still has some on hand, and has that magic stick as well. So every single time Ori tries to trade, just more burst heal potentially coming out for DD.
Well, I love if something came out from Yang up at the top lane. DY was there with the Vines as well, just to slow everyone down, and it's just such a potent combo. Like, Yang and DY, they can dish out so much damage so quickly. This combination of Tree and Centaur. The Terror Lady is still doing a great job of getting some CS in this somewhat difficult lane.
Yeah,
it could get harder as time goes on.
It's all right for God King. It's not as good as yours, though. So you compare the deficit between those two pots. Once, it's certainly a bigger win for VG, and even Yang's farm is a lot better than God King. So if they want to get that early Terrorblade farm, they've got to have a lot more presence for Red Panda. He's just really keeping track of DY. That's it.
But does DY really mind this?
No.
Like,
fine. Like, this is exactly what he wants.
Because you don't mind having the Centaur up against Terrorblade. Like, we do finally see a metamorphosis being committed, and that was the first one of the game, by the way. 4 minutes in, he was holding it up. Now that he's left alone with Yang, he kind of has to do this, but you have living armor to come in anyway on Yang. He feels invincible, this man. So he may have to be a little bit careful about how much damage he takes, but we do finally see Red Panda making his way back up top.
Yeah.
You just can't afford to do that. Like, you can't afford to chase down DY across the map. He can still help from across the map.
Yeah, it's not detrimental at all, and you are right about DY. He is going for the max level armor, so that sustain is coming out, and it is potent. Like, look at God King. Metamorphosis goes down, Yang just can kind of walk up, hoof stomp, and threaten with his presence. There's nothing that SAG has with his lane that can force the center out when Metamorphosis is down.
Nah, literally nothing. In fact, you might see a very early rotation to the jungle now from the Terrorblade, because he has got those 3 raid plans now. So I might we'll just see him just go jungle. There's no point staying in that lane any longer.
Yeah. He does. It's safer farm for him. There's nothing from VG to hunt down there. I guess DY could try rotation, but it is super risky for him to go in there. So he's just going to be getting his EXP as well. This should give Red Panda the benefit of some EXP gain, so we might see some early levels on him. And that should play in nicely.
Almost going down from the Phoenix bot lane, but he does Icarus dive away in time, and we are still yet to see a first blood. Almost 6 minutes into the game. So many heroes falling very, very low, but not one dying quite yet. So, if I may point out as well, John, there is a pretty big disparity in the mid farm right now, and as I say that, DD, like he was going to get jumped, but he'll be okay. Felix is currently securing a power rune for him, and he'll have to take it himself. But there is quite the disparity between the CS of Lena and Zeus. Like, it is pretty up there as well. Like, DD has doubled his last hits. That could be some source of concern here. So the top lane, Yang pops Stampede onto Red Panda, but he used it to try and go after the Abaddon. didn't really work out in his favor at all. Now DY could be in a very peculiar situation. They can't lock him down, so he'll just walk away. Just a
You forced a rotation. You forced a rotation out from Felix. He TP's up top to help the Abaddon, so you've got all alone bot now on the Tide, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but yours has run away with the lane. 52 last hit, 16 denies compared to OP's 29-1. The only lane SAG is really won out on is that mid. Like, it's just Ori shut down, but everyone else is still having that good ride for VG.
And I guess with the Zeus as well, it's not like you need crazy amounts of farm. Like, he still does his job regardless of the items he has. So they are going to spot up the Terrorblade in his jungle. PYW going to be very, very aggressive with the dive, but that Metamorphosis from the Terrorblade, he's just going to turn around.
I think he was looking for the Thunder Gods, or even Living Armor, but
or he
not
was
quite
out
enough.
Mana.
Yeah.
He was out of mana at the time.
Optimistic, and you know, he should have seen that. Like, you can check the status bar that would show. So a free kill for God King. Gonna be very pleased with that, and that's our first blood at 7.5 minutes.
Took a while, but interesting play by PYW. DD could get a little bit of trouble, or trying to really dish out some damage now. Another Icarus dive. It won't really be great, and they will not bother pursuing any further. So, PYW may still be suffering from PTSD from the last time. Just doesn't really want to commit to the dive anymore.
Yeah, I think this time around he did just want to secure the rune, so no regen for DD means no mana, nothing in the bottle, and can't really sustain that lane as much as he'd want up against Ori.
At what stage do you think VG Gaming just needs to start running it at SAG? In fact, speaking of running, there's a stampede mid lane. Yang gonna go after Red Panda. He really doesn't like this Abaddon. Every time Yang sees Red Panda, he's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna stampede in front of him. Just get that damn Abaddon out of my way."
Yeah, it's I can understand the Abaddon just has no tools to defend itself, right? Like, it casts a Aphotic Shield, cool. It can't kill itself with Mist Coil, so when it's stuck, it's just free food. It can't run away before you hit level 6. And that's just something VG is set to punish. And the one thing that VG has not quite kept up, it's like keeping a check on the Terrorblades. God King has, beyond that laning phase, the moment he switched to jungle, has been uncontested. He's at level 7, has a decent amount of farm, doesn't feel like he's been slowed down all too badly, and this could be a major factor. Like, the magic damage you're seeing from Ori isn't quite up there because Ori doesn't have any items.
It really doesn't. He's trying to finish Necro 1 right now. Does commit the Thunder God's Wrath, and that will actually scout out the side of SAG. So it's actually a decent Thunder God at the right time, but they're still going to lose DY, who was trying to take the outputs back to the minute mark, and he does get it, to be fair. Does have to think of his life away. In SAG, they just look to be even more aggressive now. Throwing illusions into the backline, trying to find Ori in the tree line, and Ori will avoid all that. We have to get out of there. But they are going to lose this top tier 1.
Yeah, that should even out the map control for SAG. Oh.
Cool.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not great news.
Definitely not, and that is going to set him back. He's already fairly behind. I mean, you look at the net worth, he's actually behind even OP, who didn't have the greatest time as well. So the timings on our Zeus not going to be great, and that is just going to slow down that presence. I mean, Ari's even building up to the Necro book on Zeus just for the stats and against the push potential and the damage the creeps give you. So,
sorry to interrupt you, John. Why does Eurus have 2 magic wands?
That's a good question.
I've never seen that. Is that his? You would know if it's one of his mates. Is that somebody else's?
It should show, right? The original owner if it's someone else's, and it should be grayed out. So he built 2 wands. Do you get to use them independently? I've never seen that.
I don't know. I don't think you would, right?
I don't think it should. Right? Like they should share a cooldown. So maybe if you prioritize just having more charges, that's useful. I don't know. It's a.
He may have accidentally bought it and forgot to sell it in time, so he's just like, screw it, I'll just have it for extra stats. Like that's the only thing that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, that's
all I've seen.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, maybe, you know what, it's fine, right? Like, despite that, Eurus is still farming up towards the Battle Fury at a pretty good pace. Top of the net worth board right now, 6k gold, 1 part away. And we all know how fast the troll can farm up by then, so I guess this is a weird choice. I mean, yeah, there you go. He popped 1 wand, and he drops it down, but you save the charges, so there's potential there for juggling your burst heal between 13 seconds as well, if you wanted to.
Wow, okay. So you can actually juggle magic sticks.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you wanted to. It just doesn't sound highly efficient, but you could.
Well, it looks like Cherylake does lose his life. Ori finds him, but he will lose his life in return. I think Ori will be pretty satisfied with that trade. Just, you're not farming well anyway on the Zeus, and you're not really able to catch up very quickly, so you may as well just slow down the opposing pos once farm.
Yeah, that's really the only reason they picked up this Zeus anyway. Like, they needed magic damage for the Terrorblade, so they're still getting value. They're still finding the Terrorblade with that Zeus, and overall, not the worst thing for Ori. You've got to accept that the Zeus is just not going to be that super farmed, you know, Ag's refresher by 2025 kind of a Zeus. It's been way too slow for start.
Is SAG gonna go back for that tower that essentially had been healed up all the way by our Treant Protector? VG Gaming will take a nice easy advantage and go for that bottom tier 2 trade now. And really one of the strengths of that Treant Protector is just being able to always find a better objective than the opposing team. And Eurus, he's just gonna go back. He really wants a tier 2 tower, and they're finding so much more off the map, VG Gaming.
Yeah, they definitely are. Like, they've managed to get to that point we see a lot of teams reach. T1 gone down mid, tier 2 gone down bot. This means VG has complete access to the bot lane jungle, and that's exactly where they'll stay and farm. They don't really care for the top lane anymore. They're just going to be sapping away at a safe spot for God King, and that means he's going to have to play riskier, closer to an enemy tier 2 to find his farm.
Smoke up. Australian T-Gang, LSA does land. Ravage even being committed. DY got caught in that. Ravage goes for the overgrowth, but is going to die anyway. He really wanted to protect Yang. Well, he didn't really have to die. PYW now. What is it with OP gone? He just decides he's gonna dig with his shovel while this is all going on. Sunray gonna come out now. Already he's surrounded by the Terrorblade. He also dies. No vision from the side of VG Gaming to really know that Terrorblade was running in, and now DD, he's gonna go in and try to find PYW, though LSA doesn't land, but they had the lift anyway. DD, with the DD, does find the kill.
Yeah, it's nice. 4 kills going the way of SAG and VG. Just kind of slipping up. They go in 1 by 1, get punched hard, and SAG are finding kills they shouldn't be. VG needs to kind of coordinate a bit better. We haven't seen the big team fights break out from them. They've got the superior control with the overgrowth, they've got the egg, they've got the burst damage with the Zeus, they've got the stampede to set up, but they haven't been applying that pressure. And good on SAG for playing around their own time as well. Like, they've been consistent with the Ravage, even though it hasn't led to like the most amazing team fights for OP, but they have been active on the map. They've been buying space for God King. He's got his Yasha up, and he is just about 700 gold from the Manta, so the stats are building up. The burst damage we're seeing from Ori is starting to feel like it's lacking, because you have so much HP now coming out on God King that it's going to take a little bit more effort to actually burst this Terrorblade down.
He's trying his best to just catch up and farm with that Necro 1 as Laguna Blade going to be there on PYW. So DD finding another nice easy kill for himself on the leaner. That's going to set him up for that tier 1 mid. Again, you are going to have to deal with that living combo, which is going to be a little bit frustrating, but they're going to go for a fight. Overgrowth is going to be there on 3 heroes as Yang runs in, but LSA does land. He has popped the stampede. And the rest of VG Gaming will join him in the mid lane. And again, just so much emphasis from VG Gaming to make sure they protect that T1 mid tower.
Yeah, they are keeping it alive, and SAG is showing a bit of its weakness. The push can be great, but if you ride around the Metamorphosis and you ride around DD's raw right clicks as the Lina, that's it. And right now, DD's right click damage isn't at its peak. Takes a little bit more for the Lina to really start to shine. They do smoke up though, they notice an opening here.
That they do, they have the Ravage. Great time to fight their SAG. They won't have their Terrorblade nearby, but they don't necessarily want to be here anyway as Phoenix will be able to Icarus dive away. DY trying to get D wards out as they continue to try and protect this T1 mid tower, but eventually SAG are going to be able to find it.
And it does give SAG that control back on the map, so they've got safe options in the top jungle, a lot safer to stay in that area now. And they are also building up. Like, you'll take a look back at their Terrorblade. He is behind Eurus. That is because Eurus farms faster.
Has been lifted up. LSA going to be there, but the Sunray heal may not be enough. The Ravage does connect onto PYW in the back, stopping the heals coming in, and they found another nice kill on that set. VG Gaming again just going to be trying to defend the best they possibly can. Ori though has been caught out by DD now on the Lina, and he's going to be a sitting duck. Very easy kill, and if they found more, the lift is going to be there on DY. They're just falling apart one by one.
Man, VG just being slowly dismantled, and they're not getting off the counterfights on. They're getting picked off way too often one by one. They've got to group up together much tighter and try to counterfight. They've got the Overgrowth and Egg. We haven't even seen PYW use that Egg since he hit 6, and that was several levels ago. He's at level 9 now. We're at 18 and a half, 19 minutes in. We haven't seen those big team fights out from VG. They are just happy enough to play the farming game. But this gives so much more to SAG. Like, DD has the Yules and the Shadow Blade for right-click damage, mobility, and self-setup. You've got the Vlad's up on OP, which gives so much more value to himself and to our Terrorblade staying alive. And speaking of that Terrorblade, next item up is BKB, already done with the Ogre Act. So if you stall this game out a bit too much from VG, your burst potential for the Terrorblade completely disappears, right? Like, the Zeus is just not getting the value anymore.
We haven't even seen a fight from Eurus yet. Like, Eurus is just, I mean, it's fair enough. He's just farming on the troll. He's doing what he's meant to be doing, but no battle trend being popped yet. Just no real influence at all. His farm is fantastic. He's at almost 12k net worth. But VG Gaming, they have smoked up now, but it doesn't really seem like they're really willing to take this fight. They're gonna just stand on their high ground. Yeah, smoke wears off. They're not gonna bother initiating at all. They wait for that 20-minute bounty rune, but they see Red Panda. They aren't gonna bother trying to fight. Both teams actually both top bounty runes up and running just fine, but yeah, VG Gaming again just playing the defense game.
Yeah, it feels like at some point though this defense game has to transition to something. Your items are useful. You're looking for a BKB on Eurus to allow him to stand in the middle, but then you're standing up against 3 cores which are better farmed than your equivalent cores in VG. They really put all their eggs into Eurus, and that can pay off. They just have to be really on point with fight execution. You have to see the Overgrowth on top with the Egg in the back, and the perfect staggering of those belts to get all the control to really just get key pickoffs they need. And SAG, understanding that VG's not at that point, goes straight to the Roche pit.
What? Pop the meta. It's a free run. Yeah, VG Gaming just unwilling. Just keep playing the farm game, which fair enough. Perhaps just waiting for Eurus to have that BKB, and now he does, so they smoke up straight away. I think it's going to be a little bit too late though. Roshan still going down slowly but surely. They are making their way there, but it's not quick enough. So they got to turn around and walk back the other way. They wanted that BKB before they got involved in a team fight. Well, Yang, he's still going to make the jump though on the Abaddon. They still feel confident. Red Panda does get the borrowed time off, will be fine.
Control is there for Felix, and that does mean a little bit more caution is called for from VG. They're still playing pretty far forward, despite not having the Aegis themselves, so looks like they are confident enough with that item burst on Eurus.
Yeah, just gonna bide their time. You see the BKB now on the Terrorblade.
It's a big problem. You just don't have the damage. You're going to be depending on Eurus to man fight against this Terrorblade. It's kind of right through it. I'm not sure what VG can really expect the outcome of that to be like.
Smoke is there from SAG.
Dire are scanning.
DY does cut it out. Of course, they know the trees around here somewhere. Not really worth trying to find him. In fact, maybe it was, because DY now is scouting out for his team and does go for a two-man overgrowth. But where's the follow-up? Oh, it is up there. Double hoop stomp, but Red Panda is fine again. He has borrowed time. Metamorphosis is blocked, and now the Ravage comes out. It doesn't really touch anyone though. Eurus had the BKB active. Now they're trying to turn around again. No, just kiting in and out, waiting for that perfect opportunity. Yang will jump in, but he has no follow-up. No one on his team is jumping in behind him. Like, Yang's finding all these great stuns, but there's just nobody that's willing to fight.
It's really just a VG. That fight was split around two areas. The ramp, these two ramps were really the focal points, and because of that split focus over here and here, they just couldn't really get the jump. Had some pretty overgrowth was at the back, so it was a too split out for VG. They had some decent ways to start it. It doesn't line up, and they really need all of that to line up.
Hoop stomping again. Yannick, he's going straight onto that tide. The OP god is well, he's a bit of a tanky tide hunter, and now PYW going to be forced to secret time. Now he'll be fine again. Yang gets lifted though. This is a pretty big kill for the side of SAG. Yang, well, he has the Fire Spirit flying in to try and help him out, but that's not going to be anywhere near enough.
Oh, it's just a slow dismantling of VG. They keep trying to jump in, and they keep trying to semi-group up. They need to group up tighter. Like, yeah, you're scared of perhaps a Ravage, but when it's on cooldown, the only thing you need to worry about is that, it's not like all of you will become tightly enough for the Light Strike Array.
See, when they try to heal it up, but it is almost certainly just gone.
Radiant's middle tower is attacked.
They continue. DD gonna try and scout out PYW. I believe they did spot him, and now with the Observer, what they definitely do, it's just looking easier and easier for SAG. There's just no competition here for VG game. Maybe now they'll go for a fight. They have Stampede to initiate. No, they won't. And SAG happily back out.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten a lot of objectives off the map. It is still fairly even in terms of the towers taken. Like, there is a slight advantage for VG with that tier 2 bot, but even with that slight map advantage, they don't really have the gold to apply the pressure just yet. It's really all on Eurus, who has really not done much since getting that BKB. We got popped once, the fight wasn't that great. He's farming up for the Basher. I think that added control is going to help, but honestly at this point, I really don't think it's down to Eurus. I think you should really perhaps try to kind of get something going on Ori. The big power spike here would be that Ags. We do see the booster pickup, so there is a slow build up there, and once that's up and running, the Zeus has just so much more presence in terms of contribution to these fights.
But he's been caught out, DD.
Oh,
just
man.
finds a solo pick off onto Ori. Top lane looks like they are going to engage now. PYW is there. Yang does go stop a meta. The tech blade, another Ravage comes. I'm not sure if this is miscommunication from VG. I'm not sure what's going on. Like, they're really spending a lot of time, but how fat do you want your wrist to get before you're going to do something?
it's not going to be fat enough. That's the issue here. It's like everyone else is just so far behind that even if you have a super fat troll, it can't compensate for having a weaker Centaur and a weaker Zeus. They're just not giving you enough. You have to carry that weight, and it's far too heavy of a weight. Now, VG still has potency. You know, like we haven't seen them do that ideal team fight. Overgrowth egg. We have not seen the egg. At 27 minutes in, PYW has not expended it.
Not a battle trance, not an egg. I don't know. They're really ready. They're biding their time. There must be a plan here for Vici. DD. That's big. Don't they get it? Selena being caught out. Finding Bolt as well. DD comes to BKB. The overgrowth comes in, and now Eurus gonna join in. They can't save this Lena, or maybe they can. She'll TP out of it, but it won't be in time. She does go down, and now Red Panther. Bo3 gonna delay things a little bit, but he's surrounded. DD getting overly confident on that Lena, feeling like he was just invincible the whole time. Finally gives a kill away, and that was actually a substantial amount of gold.
Yeah, that's going to help the cause of VG. And the great thing about that is Ori gets a massive boost from finding that one kill as well. So he's just about halfway through the Ags. And that's one of the key things VG has to wait out for. The Ags on the Zeus. And of course the Basher's already up in Eurus. So you've got that additional control, additional damage on the troll. He can just stand there and fight if he opted to. And SAG has to be careful about bleeding kills like that way. They're not clumped up. They don't quite have Ravage, so this isn't the time for SAG to fight. They should kind of be careful. They don't have too many forward wards anymore. They've got that one lane ward, and that's it. They need more information on the map if they want to play that aggressive.
You were talking about the fact that the Ags is coming up soon. They got the Basher on the side of VG Gaming, but you're having an Eye of Skadi just about to pop up now for God King, and well, there it is.
There it is. Ooh.
The big item.
That really hurts the troll. Just that regen cut off. Like, man, you're not gonna get that much value from your battle trance. I mean, something else you like talking about as well, like the Paladin swords up in God King, so they get the best drop you could ask for in the Terrorblade.
Absolutely. PYW just gonna fly off the see you PYW. See you next time. Always appreciated how Sunray can just let you literally fly outside of the map.
While TPing, mind you.
TPing,
like,
yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it does waste a bit of time, but I know, it's like VG's still waiting here, and we are reaching the point where even PYW should get a major item, saving up for the Shivas, so should be a bit for the tanker now. Nope.
No, he's not. He's dead. Yeah, Stampede committed. They're going to go for something here. There is a Ravage, and they have caught Ori. Buyback on PYW, which tells you they want to fight. Great BKB DD just on the start of Yang. Yang just really don't want to die right now. Not like this. Breath will come out from DY. Again, just delaying things from the side of Vici. Yang barely get away in time with that Sunray. Now Eurus looks to turn around. Use BKB. No, that'll be it.
It's that's a fairly even trade in the end, but the buyback from PYW does delay that build up onto the Shivas for him, and of course that leaves him without buyback. So it is a bit costlier for VG to find something there, but every kill they can get now is kind of worthwhile because even a Rubik is just superiorly farmed up. Like Felix has 8k gold, that's higher than PYW. You don't really want to be that far behind as a Phoenix, but that's just the situation VG finds themselves in. And they're still not finding the ideal fights. Like, we saw the Overgrowth come out, but PYW never is having that position where you can just let the egg off on top of it.
They're gonna smoke up, but they may just run into Red Panda again. They actually ping him out. That's the one they're gonna try and go for. Time, gonna pump. This is dropped as well, Red Panda. He's gonna falls quite low. Sunray will fly in as well. They do get the Abaddon, but do they have more? BKB was actually popped on terribly. He doesn't have Metamorphosis. God King. He'll be alright. He'll walk one. Egg will be shot down by PYW. There's just so much hesitation from both these sides.
Yeah, I mean, they finally get the egg off. That kill does give them the gem as well. So they've got the gem on PYW now, taken from the Abaddon. It should give them enough more.
Now you got that BKB on the Terrorblade, John. You know you can fly. OP, I'm gonna go down. Urine, do you want to pop Battle Trance? Not quite. He doesn't even need it, God.
Huh? What?
Dire's turret has
Was he trying to go for an illusion play, or?
I don't know. He does find Ori in the backline and also found PYW on the Phoenix. I think God King just thought he was dead, so he just stood there and took it. But he
had Sunder, though.
May have had a chance. Oh, he had Sunder. Oh, he did too. Well, that's not good.
Oh, so strange. Just so strange in CG. After playing on from the back for a long time, it feels like they're back. They get to go into the pit. There is a Ravage once our Tidehunter's up. It doesn't feel like he's going to be up fast enough.
No, it doesn't. It's like we're Anna. Borrowed time again. Move stop. Just gonna hold him down. Phoenix does take the move stomp, but it's not gonna really matter. Red Panda could definitely be. Oh, it does matter. Double move stomp coming out. Now DD with that Desolator doing a lot of damage to DY. They do finally find the Abaddon. Going onto the Lena, nice first hit dash, immediately pops the Battle Trance. Really one of the attack speed does get the kill. Now on the tide, Mina is popped up from the Terrorblade. They're going to try and swap around. A great Ravage to come out. Do you have enough damage from God King? It doesn't look like it. It will pop as well. Eurus will survive throughout all this. Just barely. And now BG Gaming have essentially made it so the net worth lead is really not even there. It's only 1k the way of SAG.
Such a massive swing going the way and SAG. They just kind of slip a lot. Like now you're seeing Eurus being a massive driving force, very close to the Satanic, just about 700 gold away. You don't have Ravage when your Tide respawns, so Roche is just not going to be under contention. And VG gets a lot more tools to play with. You even lose out in Metamorphosis on your TB, so when the defense comes, you won't have that tool in the Terrorblade, and that is the biggest weakness of this hero. You mentioned it from draft. In these downtimes, without that meta, God King cannot fight.
No, he can't. He may be strong, but only with meta. Very, very meta-based kind of hero. Red Panda. Yeah, he's gonna get caught out. Borrowed time. Not really gonna help too much. You're all alone. And however, Yang, in a bit of a peculiar spot, Felix does take that stampede away from Yang. They really do secure this kind of trade, as it does work very favorably for the side of SAG. Yang has been caught out. Eurus, I don't know about this Eurus. Willing answers come out Laguna. And you know, surprisingly enough, Eurus does survive. SAG, feeling like the team of VG Gaming was right behind the troll, didn't want to deal with him.
I think that's a fair bet. Like, you still didn't have Metamorphosis up on your Terrorblade, so God King was not really in a position to man-fight there. Even though he is still pretty well equipped, right? Like, he has his MKB up and running on top of his Eye of Scotty, so the damage and the Pierce going onto Eurus would have been great. It's just that you don't want to risk it. And they have already swung it all the way back. Like, VG certainly has your foothold now. And SAG are aware of it. Like, they are tapering off a bit on DD, although DD's trying to hunt. G truth.
He does get spotted, Dust does connect, but he's in the trees again.
It was that tree drop that baited out the Light Strike array in the wrong spot. So he does kind of waste time there. Yeah, but that does mean that VG should be aware where SAG are, so they're in spot lane. They're going to try to get the 2 push. They should have Metamorphosis up, and they do have Ravage out. So this is the time for SAG to force it out.
They are still fighting for an Aegis. In fact, Stampede coming off, and Overgrowth is there, does catch up the Terrorblade. God King will be okay, will start running. And again, looks like they may just settle on Red Panda. Will just, yeah, he'll just take the Abaddon kill. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna bother chasing anyone else. It's fine. I'll take your support.
Yeah, it's you take what you can get. That does force SAG all the way back, so you protect your tier 2s quite well, but SAG still has the tools they need to take these fights. The Ravage was not extended, Metamorphosis is still ready to go, and I think SAG is just going to cut that loss, regroup, and try to fight in a more favorable area. It's just that SAG is still kind of lacking vision. They have that one ward in their jungle, but they do have control in the triangle, so VG has to be careful walking into the triangle area because there are wards there.
What is this game become? DD is now going for a Divine Rapier. What's happening?
They're behind. They've lost a huge swing.
I appreciate they're behind. Terrorblade. VG Gaming hasn't even come close to the high ground yet.
I think they understand though that the Terrorblade does not have good timings late game. It's just so constrained with meta that you'd rather invest in Lena becoming that long-range menace. Like, she does damage, she has really good range, and she has great attacks with her Fiery Soul, so it's something you can build up off of much easier and consistently in terms of not being constrained by a long cooldown. You know, it's just it's ready to go when it's ready to go. You are seeing tier 4 items pop out, and that is a really good turning point for SAG. They still have decent control on their jungle, so they can kind of get a spike here.
Eurus, you are by yourself, sir. I know you have the Aegis, but this is very, very confident play. He does not get punished for it. SAG, again, assuming he wasn't by himself, probably left him alone.
Ooh, the leveler going the way of VG. That is going to be so obnoxious in Eurus.
Okay, who end up finding DY, TD again just taking a solo pick off by himself. VG Gaming at 3k worth lead for themselves.
This is it's such a stark contrast, huh?
This is gonna be probably he just run out. PYW. Time. Sunray gonna be as well, Eurus. Look to join in again, it's Red Panda. Always gonna go for the Abaddon. X gonna come out on the Phoenix now, PYW, he'll be out of range. It's just fine. DD looping around, you know, trying to find the main target once. Yeah, both teams just not really willing to commit full time. Just gonna back up.
It's just a lot of patience from both sides. Neither side really having a proper positioning there, and they're gonna have to just kind of wait out it. The next probably gonna see break out is next to the Roach Pit. That's the next safe objective for both sides, and considering how even it is, that's really good.
Gonna jump in, Red Panda. It is gonna be the target. He does have Ravage over the time. Look, it comes out down to Yang, and there's the Ravage. He connected up with PW. You don't go for the Phoenix yet. They want to get in. He wants W. He had a field that will proc. Eurus meanwhile, they're not Red Panda and D with the battle transfer. Around the blade. They do find God as well. Eurus with a triple kill, and yeah, it was another messy engagement, but it ends up panning out.
Oh man, there's no buyback SAG now as well. Like, he bought out his plate mail for his AC, which was still stuck in his dead courier, so he's not even gonna have his AC up when he respawns. The courier's coming out after. He won't have Metamorphosis when he's back up. This is a massive window for VG to just completely destroy one set of racks, maybe more.
Oh, Yang jumps an OP, got buffed. They go after the Rubik Eurus. He has an Abyssal Blade. They force the buyback out of the Lena as well. just don't think you back off. There's no need to.
No?
Okay, he got jumps in for an anchor smash, runs away. Yeah, barely taken now. He has the cranky code as his own AC. Need armor. Yeah, 40 armor on that tank right now. That Desolator is doing literally nothing today. But Anna, you'll be alright to try and go after another tier 3. He really wants to get on the Lena. If they kill the Lena, the game's over. She has no buyback. In fact, Yang just jump in. Lassus is there for DD to try and get away, but now the egg being put in Europe. He got that first smash, and it's not going to be enough. DD no hits. He might W with the egg damage, barely taking him out before it gets to the fountain. Now God King runs right into them. He does get a Sunder off, but it may not matter as DY got the overgrowth, and it looks like it is falling apart for SMG. God King does die with that buyback goal. And that's it. GG is called. Gaming, the whole game looked to be behind, and it only took a couple minutes and the game's over.
Yeah, SAG, their falling point was really when you saw DD get caught out in the jungle. That's when SAG started falling.
Trying to take advantage of it somehow.
They're waiting there on the high ground. They'll immediately burst through the Aphotic Shield. Notail is trying to run. The Smash is after him. Notail's got the backup of Anna. Mind Control's going to head in. Liquid, they're diving on forward. GH will be kept safe by the Heavenly Grace. Kuro may have done a little tip by this time. Will be surrounded. The four of them take down Kuro. Put an end to his reign across the map. As OG responding in their numbers now in that middle lane. They won't let Liquid get away with this any longer.
They still, OG has a very strong way to fight, even in the early game. Even if they do have a greedy IO pick, it's what it provides you, especially when you have a Gyro. Gyro is all about that early fights, same thing with Tiny. And even Timbersaw, but Seb right now, we know he doesn't really want to show up except for the tower defenses. And he's also going to be matching that Chen, who's going to be an early mech. It's actually going to be a mech Timbersaw since they have IO. So this amount of sustain that could come out from OG pretty soon is going to be pretty hard for Liquid to deal with this. Seb, he actually jumps forward for GH.
He goes deep. Wea's going to turn with a focus fire. Seb, of course, has got the max reactive armor. Thanks to that, Shackle won't latch. Seb, continue to back off. Chains out, back over the river. He's fine. Liquid will try and turn their attention towards Thompson, but with Notail by his side, they cannot dive up to the high ground. Seb holding them back.
5 Liquid heroes in the mid lane. Trying to brawl again at the same time as last game. It's 13 minutes in, and there's 9 heroes or 8 heroes positioned around this area. They want to go for Notail, but he's got ulti.
Miracle's going to continue to chase this under the Titu, and they will get it. Seb is trying to turn. The missile is out on the Kuro. Does Seb have the burst? Not quite. Magnetizes out, and Seb has to retreat. Shackle does latch. Liquid. They've got the lockdown. They've got the roll for the kickback. They'll crush him. Liquid. They're diving again.
They want top.
They've got a bit of a flavor of how OG was playing in these last 2 games, and they're saying we could do it too. Thompson pops the cooldown. They won't go too crazy. They'll let him live. They don't want to dive up towards the tier 3. They know TPs are coming in.
They have to make sure they're hitting the tower because the side lanes are being split pushed. Ana as well as Jerax are actually pressuring these other 2 towers. And they're not even going to get this one here. It's down into deny range. OG might be able to deny that mid tower if they choose to do so. Liquid with an overzealous dive there, not losing anybody, but the side lanes giving a lot to that Tiny as well as that IO. And we know this, the timing, it's all about just waiting for IO to get not only Aghanims, but get that level 15 talent. That's what OG wants.
He's diving in. Onto Kuro with the flak as well. Hand of God will not keep Gen alive today.
GH will not get TP'd out. Jerex actually TP's in and gets the toss up at the exact timing.
And OG's actually not done, as they are still hunting for action. Miracle the focus. Thompson's got a DD. A power shot does come out. Lands on Thompson.
A bit too aggressive there, but Thompson will throw down the call down just to clear the
Well, the Shackle actually reaches across the trees, but no tell. He's there with a shield. Thompson goes for the TP out. The focus fired down the damage. It's not enough. Thompson saved. A spray on the way out. Thompson will escape. Liquid, it's 9-6 in their favor, but the net worth difference, it's pretty much even. As you say, sure, Liquid, they are bringing the aggression, finding the kills, but space is being given to those important members of OG.
Yeah, especially on halfway to that Aghanims already. Level 11 finished up. He's got the Spirits applied slow, so he can fight as soon as he has that Aghanims, of course, with the talent, but the big one is that 15, that extra Spirit Hero damage that does come out. But yeah, look at this immediately. Seb now positioned up top. He wants to push the top tower as soon as Liquid is positioned in mid. And Jerex already looking to set up down toward the bottom lane. Liquid have to just get these towers. Have to get some type of map advantage here.
Once Xana has the Aghanims, things are going to start getting very tricky for Liquid when they turn up like this.
Yeah.
The Spirits will be out.
Yeah, and they have Bristle. That's a good thing, right? Bristle can be good versus the IO. If you can get on top of him, the goo. You don't have the highest armor traditionally on the IO, but he's versus an actual counter. Timbersaw, very good versus Bristle back at all stages.
Are fortified.
It's just that farm game, OG.
Got mind control. Looking towards Seb up top, but it's hard really for these heroes without the shackle shot or GH getting a beautiful angle. It's very hard for them to kill Seb.
It's very hard for them to kill pretty much anybody if they don't have Weehawk. If they can catch some of the supports and the running around by themselves, they can maybe pick them off, but they really need Weehawk for the damage. The rest of them do not really provide that at this point of the game versus what they're against. Magnetize can be good, but there's a lot of ways that they can deal with it. Not only with the tankiness of how they are, but also there's an advantage. We can just remove it a lot of the times.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
And Seb, he could just get away with this, pushing this wave into the tier 2 every single time, knowing that sure, if Liquid do come for him, it's going to be so many of their resources that it's probably going to be worth it for OG to have Seb positioned that aggressively and for him to draw that much attention towards him. Thompson's getting space, Anna's getting space.
Look at that build by Thompson. Diffusal Gyrocopter.
Wait, what?
Diffusal? Gyrocopter, I just said it.
Tourette's Diffusal Gyrocopter.
Radiant team ban. VG Gaming's turn to ban. Radiant team ban. VG Gaming's turn to ban. Seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team ban. VG Gaming's turn to ban.
All right, the Game 2 draft between Sparking Arrow Gaming and VG Gaming. It is MLP Dota and X5 done. In interesting game number 1, VG Gaming do manage to take it for themselves. Game 2, what do you think Sparking Arrow need to do differently?
I think they've got to play around their timings a lot stronger. Like there was a really strong moment there for SAG where it had control of the map, They had all the items they could have wanted at that point. They were completely shut down. Ori was a non-factor in every single engagement. Eurus was just farming up a storm, but wasn't participating. If they just took maybe a rat first, instead of having DD play overconfidently in that jungle, they might have been able to maintain that. But they did get punished. It did fall apart, and VG managed to scrape their way back in. So as props to VG, but SAG need to tighten up their gameplay towards the late game.
Well, draft has begun. Train Protected was actually taken by Sparking Arrow Gaming this time, so they do see the strength in this hero. VG Gaming, however, they go for the Earthshaker hero opening. So, removing both their supports straight off the bat, and Sparking Arrow, they see an Earthshaker, they see a Jakiro, they take Rubik.
Yeah, it's a lot of value spells here for SAG, and of course we saw that Rubik to great effect in game 1. So I don't really mind that they've taken it again. VG still looks pretty darn good. I'd say this support duo Shaker Jack for me is a bit stronger. The tree does have great lane potency. We did see the potential of the living armor build in the last game, and the Overgrowth, of course, is just such a strong spell. Just that the Shaker is much more versatile in how it sets up for the team fights. It also does bring a lot more damage, and I think that control combines super well with Jack. Like, you get a big slam, you land the macro power on top, and follow up with the ice pack. It's so hard to survive that if you're SAG, and that's something to watch out for. It will take time for that combination to come out. Like, you're waiting for Shaker to farm up a blink, and you're waiting for some items to come out and some levels to come out as well. But when that's up and running, SAG has to be very disciplined about their positioning.
Very dangerous though. Like, you're playing this Ruby who really had no cast animation. So, especially with as path, like, you're just gonna have a great time taking either ability, whichever one you prefer, depending on the situation. Just turning around up against VG, but they must have known that was gonna happen. Obviously, both these supports and leaving the Rubik open for Sparking to take. So perhaps feeling that maybe the support duo of Tree and Protect Rubik isn't really that good together. Maybe that's their idea. Maybe they just don't care about the Rubik. I suppose only time will tell, but it is... I'd be pretty happy for that Rubik right now. But it's just...
Yeah.
Ice Path and Fisher is so good to steal Rubik. It just makes the game so much easier if you are a player that is having the Rubik game. VG though, what doesn't make it easy is when you have to do with an Ember Spirit.
Yeah, it's like you've got the lift and I suppose the Overgrowth from the tree, but you don't really want to keep expending Overgrowth, and it is on cooldown, so there's a lot of moments where Ember should be able to weave in and out quite nicely. Should be able to be really disruptive in these fights. This does tie into the pace of the game that the supports bring as well. They do let you set the pace early on, and the Ember Spirit doesn't take too long to hit an early power spike. So it's a nice strong pickup for VG. It lines up with how the supports want to play, and it's down to SAG now to figure out what to do against it. Like, they've already got their support duos, so you already do lack that instantaneous lockdown outside of the Overgrowth. You need to find another way of keeping that Ember in place, and they do go for the Storm response. So you've got the Storm Spirit versus Ember Spirit laning, and you do have a high mobility hero yourself, giving VG the same problems. They have to rely on a Slam or a Great Fisher coming out and follow up after to keep that Storm in place.
If I may though, it is still very early for a Storm to be popping. I agree that maybe you'd argue the lockdown is there, but you got the Ember Chains, you got the Fishy, you got the Ice Path, and you still got 2 more picks if VG Gaming. Still plenty of time to have a real proper counter to the Storm Spirit. Perhaps Sparking Arrow are just assuming that Ember is going to be run mid, but VG Gaming also do have the option of running that Ember safe lane and choosing someone else mid if they felt it was necessary.
I don't think the laning matchup is too hard for either. We've seen this countless of times, and it really almost always boils down to basically a coin flip on evenly skilled players. So it's just down to how you position yourself in the first few waves. I love the response from VGO. You mentioned counter picks coming in. That's a really good way to keep the Storm Spirit in place. Necrophos coming out. Reaper's Sight is just so consistent, and sure, as a Storm, you could probably build a Linken's. It's not what you want to build first, and that does give VG a lot of leeway with getting that Reaper's Sight off.
Well, one more pick by the team, Sparking Arrow, the ones to make that first final pick. You saw the Batrider come out pretty much immediately after the Necrophos. They really didn't think about it at all. Into the Ember. And even the Necrophos, the Batrider is very nice. In fact, the Necrophos pretty much has an impossible laning stage. He is placed up against that Batrider.
Yeah.
It's really bad for a Necrophos if he has to lane up against the full Batrider. So I love the fact that Sparking Arrow just spent no time thinking about it. And we're probably going to see a lot of lane switching going on when we do start the game, just to ensure they can get that kind of matchup.
Yeah, it's a great pick from SAG. I think one thing VG has to be a bit concerned about is, you know, we were talking about the Rubik since it came out, but picking Necrophos into Rubik is such a massive risk. It's so easy for the Rubik to steal sight, and suddenly your own team is going to be hurting because of you. It's just, you mentioned it, but it's such a good Rubik game. Shaker, Jakiro, and the Necrophos as well. I think the priority for SAG has to be getting some decent farm on that support Rubik so you can have an easier time reaching out for the spells. Have a fast Acre Lens. We saw that come out in game 1. It's so much more effective here, and ooh.
Okay, PA comes out, of course. There has been some ramblings about whether PA is actually good now with all the buffs it received in the last patch. But a lot of those buffs are latest for the later stages of the game anyway, but there's an argument now that it could be a pretty decent carry. Mind you, they are choosing PA into Ember Necrophos. Could be a bit tough in that sense, because it's Necrophos and Ember Spirit. Like, it's very hard to lock those two down long enough.
Yeah, not only that, but like even Necrophos can kind of avoid that burst damage from the PA just by Ghost Shroud. So if the PA comes in, you don't have the backup of your Storm or Bat. Be hard pressed to burst the Necrophos down.
Yeah, it's just not going to be a good time. I suppose when you add the Batrider Storm to the equation, sure, she can have a fine time in those team fights. Vici game, they want to try and get some sort of safe lane or that could deal with the PA rather easily. What will it be though? Okay.
Ooh.
Choose the PA. She's gonna go for a Battle Fury anyway, more than likely, but Battle Fury doesn't really, you know, make anything necessarily happen, right? It's not a guarantee that you're actually gonna be able to fight all those illusions anyway. So I like the PA up. It's just, I think it's gonna be way too hard for Sparking Arrow to deal with in this matchup.
Certainly it will be. The thing about a PA going up against PL, the Battle Fury build-up is just super slow, and that's the moment when the PA could be really strong. If you go for the fast Desolator instead, there's so many heroes to burst down. PYW can be a sitting duck, DY can't get anything done, and if you play your cards right, Yang is just going to burst down. You don't have the best HP scaling. So it really depends on what SAG wants. Do they want to potentially match up against a Phantom Lancer late? Are they looking to stall the game out? That the Battle Fury is the way to go for the PA so that you do have a way of dealing with the Phantom Lancer illusions. If you don't want that to be an issue, if you just want to be done game super quick, you want the PA online, but it's just, even if you went with a fast PA game, you don't quite have the push from SAG. The lineup is not going to be melting towers fast. So they probably will go for that Battle Fury buildup, but it's just so iffy. People keep thinking Battle Fury is a great counter to PL. Well, it's really not. It just takes so long for your right clicks to be effective with a play that you'd be better off with just getting a lot of wave clear, and that is something that is certainly lacking for the most part on SAG.
We are going to have a quick reconnection from one of the SAG members.
I think that's a toilet break, actually. Water closet, if I recall, right? The WC.
I thought I saw RC. Well, hey, thank goodness you're here, John, to really clarify what's going on.
It's not a... Fortunately, you know, it's not a McDonald's 1997.
What? Why did you bring that up so often? I don't understand how this has become a meme.
It's the imagery, okay? It's just the sheer absurdness of the imagery. It's like the Boom ID copy pastas, you know? I love those, and they're just so absurd as well. It's like, it's just hilarious. If you don't know what it is, it's an Australian thing.
It's not.
I was just looking at it up.
Thing, John. I don't even know about what you're talking about yet. It's just a thing.
Oh, you're saying I'm young. Thank you. I do appreciate that. I'll take it.
All right. You are young, John. You're not that old.
Well, relatively, sure. Amongst the two of us here, yes, absolutely, old man.
So, laning stage. Yang gonna show up bot. So he definitely doesn't want to be up against the Batrider. He would much rather prefer the PA lane. It's one he can kind of deal of the PA lane. God King is currently just chilling out in the mid lane with his Storm. And Woolen just gonna kind of dance with DD there.
Yeah, just chilling out by their tower. We saw him kind of, well, we saw VG kind of do this last time, right? Where they immediately went to the early Eurus lane swap. They're kind of holding out. They want those good lane matchup as well. And it does look like VG is a bit more ready. I mean, Eurus is leading towards the top, but not quite. So they do have a nice forward ward, though. Like, this ward from SAG is going to spot out any sneaky moves, and of course allows them to creep cut if they wanted to. So there is that going on now for SAG.
God King gonna really stick around here in the lane. That's just to help out with the block, DD, and yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Just making sure he does get a decent block off. God King gonna be careful to ruin the block of DD, and eventually will decide to run up towards that top lane. Just want to ensure they have the right lane matchup here. I want to ruin this PA's lane and repeat her game.
Yeah.
Not always down in the mid lane up against DD, so you've got that settled. Yang hasn't really shown himself quite yet down at the bot lane. In fact, Yang is already running up towards the top lane. And so both teams just waiting for the other one to make a move.
Yeah, it's a lot of time being wasted here. I mean, VG now knows where God King is. They've got that obs ward. God King's dancing under it, so this does allow them to make an informed decision, although again, they're just kind of hanging back.
Everyone mid lane, 5v5 mid.
Oh god, they're actually just jungling. Like, God King and OP are jungling. Eurus is jungling with Yang.
Okay, this I really haven't seen before. I can appreciate how important it's going to be to win these lanes.
Supports are getting so low lane EXP and farm. What is this?
They're gonna farm the jungle, John. Not very efficient, but well, OP God's there with his net palm does actually help quite a lot, and well, in fact, OP God's the one taking the farm on those smaller creeps at least. So, okay, they're just gonna keep jungling it.
Wait, really? Like, I think they're just waiting for VG to come to the lane, so they don't know where VG's at. They don't want to show, they want to have TP advantage, and your showing top should allow one of them to rotate to their preferred lane. That should allow them to find that matchup if they wanted to, and you missed out on a lot of waves. The supports are going to be much more of a threat in this lane than you'd expect.
Yeah, they definitely are. So now that Eurus does show top, we'll see the PA run top. Eng has gone down bot, Red Panda may actually die here, and the Fisher block wasn't great. It actually helps Red Panda survive. Bit unfortunate for the side of each game. They do miss out on the first block. Red Panda, but you know, now he does finally get to be a support again, and well, he's already hit almost level 4 now on the Tree Protector. He is a really big support, but that helped the case. But SAG, even VG Gaming, right? Like, how far did Kiro get? DY's at level 3. So,
Yeah, he's at level 3. He loses his courier with his brown boots. Really nice pick off from Felix. That just makes our Jakiro's laning presence a lot weaker for a minute.
Mid lane, of course, it's going to be a very, very even matchup so far. DD is slowly pulling ahead now, 17-4 compared to 14-5. So he does have a pretty big wave coming into the tier 1, but DD is really ensuring he doesn't allow him to farm in peace.
Yeah, it's been a good time for DD. He has been much more consistent with harass. There are windows where the Ember just can't fight back. Level 2 Flame Guard is nice, but Storm Spirits can still kind of burn through it with the Overload and the Stat Remnant, so not the best of times for Ori. Just kind of at that range disadvantage as well.
Funny, dude, like I thought, back down a bot lane where, yeah, I thought he would definitely just try to go back up top. Because you really don't want to be up against OP God, but he does stick around. It's not going to be a very easy lane for him, and he's already experienced that quite a bit now with that sticky napalm. In fact, Red Panda's making it hard now because you've got this level 4 tree and they're going to rotate in on you every single time he sees you. But Gaming are just sustain with this. In fact, P1W getting a little too aggressive here, but he does get a nice Fisher off. And that'll stop SAG from really being able to capitalize on the VG Gaming heroes.
Yeah, they still found a career kill, so that's a nice little gold injection for SAG. But you're not seeing as much aggression as you'd expect. I think you're still happy with how OP's finding farm though. I mean, Necrophos definitely slowed down a lot more than you'd want here.
God King could be in trouble. Eurus has joined D1, the Jakiro, but can't find Lance, so he will back out. Meanwhile, bot lane, P1W and Red Panda going at it, but Red Panda did manage to swipe away the bounty rune from PYW, so it does end up being a 3-for-1 trade on those bounties. So again, SAG just finding a little bit of an advantage early on.
Yeah, it's just a lot of a better start for the older gold, and Ori now being jumped.
Yeah, he is. He really should have no way out of this, but the TP could be enough. No. He does find it in time with the Static Remnant and the Overload hit. It's a big win for the side of SAG, just really slowing down Ori, but more importantly, speeding up the farm of DD on that Storm.
Yeah, it's almost like a reflection of game 1. Just Ori not finding the best laning matchup. It's a bit closer this time. You're still losing out massively to DD. Level 7 now on our Storm. Our Ember still has to hit that 6 mark, and before then it's just not an easy time for Ori.
God King. Gonna case down, but Eurus won't have enough damage. Now we'll have a rotation from DD very, very early on with an Invis room, just looking to try and really set pace here. In fact, they jump straight on DY in the backlines. That hero not going to survive very long. They'll actually ignore Eurus on the PL. And DD, he's going to stick around here where, while God King, where's he gone? Goes back to the fountain and may, in fact, run mid now.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better time for God King. Of course, you are going to be bleeding some space back to Ori. You have to be really cautious about the magic damage output. But this is, you know, fairly consistent farm for RPA. Just throw out the dagger. You don't need to worry too much. It's a nice distance away, and Ember shouldn't be able to reach you unless he commits his remnants.
I do like this SAG though, because both cores that were running around the map farming jungle for a while, they were really behind in terms of levels. So the fact that SAG is allowing the PA to take over the mid lane and get that solo XP, it may give them a pretty big lead in this match up against VG Game, because you're not going to see the same happening for Yang. So Yang is already at level 5 to be fair, but you get my point. Like, SAG is just trying to find any little advantage they can going into this.
Yeah, and they really need it. Like, considering how far behind God King is in farm, he's actually behind the trend as well right now. You don't see the same situation anymore for VG. Their cores have managed to pull up despite that early time wasted. So there is still recovery to be done here for SAG.
Ori gonna try and go after this Storm. They do get the chance, but DD should be fine. In fact, he does turn around now with God King. Ori has been jumped. Remnant forward, but it's so slow thanks to that stifling dagger. God King will just try and hit the Jakiro a little bit, but we haven't hit that level 6 mark, so you are missing a lot of damage on that PA. Nobody ends up dying. Everyone survives.
Yeah. And just not quite at the point where both sides are completely comfy for these long drawn out fights. Rather unfortunate that DD was not in the healthiest pool to really force the shootouts. They missed out on some opportunity. It was fairly low anyway. But you see a lane swap once more. God King dragged up top to try to find farm, but immediately disrupted by D1.
Well, it's very hard though, right? Like, you've got this Jakiro that had so much lane XP by himself, and Jakiro is already very lane dominant as a hero as it is, but we've got at least the same levels as the PA. It's impossible to try and fight back in the laning phase. Like, now God King's go to the jungle with that level 6. It's gonna be a very, very slow process for him.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I love this ward from VG. You're seeing that exact same spot by the ramp. Like, it's not even spotted out. It doesn't block ramp, so no one's just clinting, and this should give VG some information if they want to go for rotation down the line.
They also get that information as well, where they know exactly where God King is, right? Like, they know he's awesome up jump with bot lane. OP God, OP going to come out, and that's going to ensure that they can't chase OP on the Batrider. They do have DD on the area on that Storm, or he can spot him out, but if he wants to go for the fight, DD not so much. They are just going to stick those bottom battery runes for the side. Gaming. DD, okay, try and kill off D1 this Jakiro. It's not too hard to do though, but as stuff comes out with the Jewel Breath, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near enough to secure a kill on the DD. Perhaps if Yang was a bit closer on the Necrophos, but he was still climbing up. Frontal out once again.
And it's a slower pace of game, or at least the slower pace for VG is working into SAG's advantage, although not too much. There's not too much of a goal lead. They do have 4-0 kill streak on their side, so most certainly really playing off the aggression, and that fight actually, but they're not finding it what form you'd expect from these kids. Less than 1k advantage, you're still seeing issues with God King. That's the big takeaway here for SAG, that PA consistently has had no space. Whether or not you force these fights, God King has just not been able to play that. Still working on power treads at 11 minutes in. Not a very good set of timings for our PA.
Yeah, well, yours is to get very, very close to that diffusal blade. He's gonna have the second alacrity really soon. Well, VG, they've smoked up with Orient. DY is going to be there as well as they want to jump to OP, and he is definitely dead here. I believe living armor's there, but it's not enough. Ori, rotation on the Ember, find a kill. SAG, they have these things they kind of need to wait for, right? Like, you've got the PA who's going to take a while, but more importantly, you've got DD on the Storm, who has been having a really nice time, but you need at least something like the Kaya to really be able to be aggressive in those team fights and not rip them out so darn quick.
He is working to that. The progress is steady, and he's not doing bad. Like, number 2 effort is an okay spot. You're only behind the PL, who has basically turned to free farming now. Like, the pressure from SAG to keep this hero in place has not been there. They do have a nice aggressive ward to watch his farming pattern, so it's kind of like a mirror of the other ward. This does block the camp, so eventually VG's going to figure out that it's there and get the D-ward off. Well, it's going to be expiring in a minute anyway.
Ori. It's an easy kill on Felix. We'll just go ahead and try to secure it. Quicker will be dropped. They just want the easy kill. Maso is there onto Yang, however. Yang does get the ghost form up, and now it looks up. And with the ogre, thought it was going to be enough. Perhaps they still fine yet, but the Reaper sights just in time. DD, he's going to try and go on DY now. He should be able to pop the hero fairly easily, but DY is taking it as hard as possible. Now Fisher comes in from PW. They do get red. Be a 2 for 3. And DD's out of mana.
Oh.
He seemed to know this. They're gonna start charging full. Ori has chains available once again. So forcing a rotation now from Felix. He did die initially, but just respawned very quickly. Oh, PYW getting caught out. Now Ori's in a very awkward position, but he couldn't believe. It just runs forward, gets the kill, but now how do you get out? Gets the chains off, gonna go for the TP play. Felix, can you get a lift off? No. He didn't have it anymore.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Great set of kills going away, VG. All of it going to Ori for this. And what was one kill very early on turns into 5, and VG's definitely reeling it back in.
Why? I thought DY was about to get away there in the mid lane. He does not. The flame damage was just enough to kill him off, so he got really happy with that. Very dangerous spot for him though. Eurus was rushing in, and had the defusal laid up, that would have definitely been killing that right. And
oh yeah.
The point where it starts a little bit scary for a PO, like even if he's not gonna jump into these slots with defusal, you can't ever count him.
No.
You never know.
It's so potent, and this is the fusel flying in now. So there you go. The damage is there from Eurus if he chooses to join in. You compare it to the progression of God King. Like, God King has climbed up above the back right now at least, so they've given enough space for God King to recover. But you're looking at a battlefield maybe about 18 minutes at best, like an absolute perfect time. Or likely maybe 19 to 20 minutes for that battlefield. And once that's up, of course, it should be about time to go.
Chains, beat them, but Felix get his own remnants already. How do you sum this? Remnants away from now, remnants away from Ori. You'll leave that D1 top tower to go down because they already found the trade down the bot lane.
Dire's top tower has fallen.
But I agree with this sentiment, John. Like, the farming essentially is just so much further behind. And again, it just feels like there's so much. You need to rely on DD so much for it to really carry a team for a while. And it's like, he's got the fire up, and he's trying to go for a rockstone straight after that, but it's just gonna be a fast timing. You know, it's not necessarily bad, but it's not great.
Nah, definitely not. It leaves a lot of leeway for VG to just put around while we're super strong. And you can't say the same for SAG either. You're gonna have to fight time. They don't quite have the big team fight setup that VG had potential for with the overgrowth egg. Instead, you're gonna be relying on OP jumping in. Even have the blink yet. So they're saving up on the back for the blink, and when you have that, at least you can find solo pickups to force a reaction from VG.
D1 just casually going into the mid lane trying to take the T1 tower by himself. Of course, the armor is going to make it very hard, and now OP going to commit a fast with this kill to Kiro. D1 will end up losing his life. So now you don't have blast, so you find Ichi winting aggressive. Do you have a blip up on PYW on the Earthshaker as well? So they haven't revealed that yet. This might be the perfect time for Vici Gaming to go for a smoke. The other end of things though, you've got Red Panda now with the Meteor Hammer on the Twin Protector, so you can be a bit careful about that.
Yeah, it's a super potent follow-up to the Overgrowth, so you've got a little bit more control there, and a lot more damage. Of course, some consistent push if you get near tier 1. That's something SAG can simply work around. They just haven't been in position to take bigger team fights on pickoffs.
Tower is under attack.
See, Gaming again, grouping up to that mid lane, running off that C1 tower. Taking armor, continually just doing it up slowly, but they try to secure it this time around. They're not looking at that this time.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
It's just such a slow process.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not putting armor it again. It's not as slow as it could have been though.
Ori?
DD down to Ori.
Tower has
He does have remnants available. In fact, he wants to keep going. Without that PA, it just seems they don't really have that burst potential yet.
No.
You need to get someone out of the team fight.
Yeah, it's is going to be on the low end for the Battlefield time, so maybe about 8.5 minutes or 19. So it's not as late as you'd expect. It's still kind of decent considering that the rough lane to start, and you do see God King pull up to number 2 in effort. So he's managed to recover. It still doesn't compare to the PL, and Eurus is just going to use this time to constantly farm out. Now, once the Battlefield's up, it should accelerate for God King, but by then Eurus should at least have his ultimate orb at that point, and of course it's a step away from the Manta. Then you're looking at the PL with a lot more stats and a lot more dodge potential with that Manta illusion. Oh.
King.
Oh no.
He's gonna be there with the Spirit Vessel now. He does have creeps to link to, so he will get there just in the nick of time. Or he has remnants, although nice team from God King, but he will not make it. A slider fist just in milliseconds. The mid lane, they jump now. Who they found? It's gonna be Euro, it'll be a massive pickoff, but they just can't get it in time. Rotations. Ori again jumping in with a double chain. Echo. P-Line damage takes down OP God. Red Panda does commit overgrowth with the Meteor Hammer. That will hold them back a little bit, but there is a remnant and he doesn't need it. He just slide at fists. Ichi Gaming suddenly have a 3K network lead.
Just off the back of some pretty good kills there. Like, you would have thought after losing that PA, you'd play a bit more conservatively. They still try to force the issues out. You're not going to have overgrowth when your treant respawns, so you're not going to have an opportunity for team fights. You don't find a kill on Eurus, even after losing your PA, so it's not a trade. And, you know, that Battle Fury is going to be, it's up and running on our PA, but now our PL is going to have that ultimate orb and, not 40 gold. He's basically had it. You have the Manta style there, and you just can't burst this guy anymore.
He wants to get poured out, but lane just hits his macro pipe before he does. Actually does his job. Like, Eurus is now easily able to clean that bot that he's got C1 power. And unfortunately, with the side of SFD, they can't go for the bottom P1 because their wave was just cleared out by that macro. But he wants more than happy to that. Can you just drag out this game, allow Eurus to get huge? Does have the full man. He is running into them right now. Eurus may just turn around. It's going to be on the wrong side, but PYW says screw that. Still. And with Reaper's side, they will have enough.
Yeah. Really good pick off there. They rely on back with the blink to find easy targets to fuck without that. There's just no potential for big counterplay, although Overgrowth is up on Red Panda. They haven't going for themselves.
Chains? Ori just jumps straight as the Magpie was coming out from Felix, and I suppose it's lucky he replied before. But now Red Panda over and meeting Emma gonna be there on Ember and now spin as he uses the DY with the ice path. And Ori should go down, still does, but now PYW jumps in, he wants to trade, he does get DD. And God King probably he loves to be farming, but he just felt the necessity to have to help his team. His presence, well, it could be for now because he does jump to Yang, but Yang just ghost forms and now Panda he's the hit for him. He's gonna
SAG just kind of streaming in one by one to the fight. Like, they've already lost. They still try to man up instead of just doing more things off the map. The only hero doing that is really OP, who goes down bot and shoves it in. But that was time for the PA to farm. You mentioned it. Like, God King should have been farming up to try to match up. So still falling a bit more behind. VG now, even after losing Ori, are set to have a good timing on that Ags, on the Ember.
Oh, Baron now.
Become feast for the flesh.
The big god. Just getting caught at very, very hard team right now. They're caught up at the top lane. If you want, you don't care if you got Jakira.
Oh no.
They lose the storm, he has no mana. They do jump
Oh no.
Even PYW has the echo with the control. They get the storm and they're gonna find the PA, and then this insulation right on top of all that. Felix does take the Fisher, he's gonna run for his life. There's no reference available on Ori's. Maybe he does get away and he will. You lost your store. As a Rubik, you'd rather just buy yourself.
Oh yeah, it's they're the two biggest targets you could lose out on, depending on BD to give you the snowball. He just finished his Bloodstone, so it's down to 12 charges as well. And your PA had no progression beyond Battlefield because they were too busy.
Just gonna feed it on the Earth Spirit. Oh, Earth Shaker, excuse me. The fish, are they gonna have enough? When I saw that lasso come out, I thought there's not gonna be enough damage. Surely you haven't got the storm, you haven't got the PA. It's not being enough. Problem is you lose the bottom tower at DD. He just really enjoys going up DY. Eurus is there, however, DD. Oh, I don't know. Or if he has the chance and the Spirit Vessel and now the mana all gone. Oh, Eurus is getting very close to a half job. He is.
That's terrifying. You can't deal with
gold off a heart.
There's no way this PA with BKB Fury can face up against that Phantom Lancer. That kind of timing. Once this heart is up. And that's really the key issue with SAG. They went for this PA pick, they went for the farming prioritization rather than fighting. And they can't even find out now. OP gets chased down.
Yeah, nice bishop. Yeah, he got it. Trying to create space for his team. You know you're gonna die if you do that, but you just have to do it. There's just no other option. One King need at least BKB, but even then, you're just there right now.
Oh.
One King's gonna run out of him, that's weird, but he's just gonna have to send man bump, but now the Ice Park comes out. Eurus gonna back. He's just scared of that storm. He was right to be scared. The zip in is this now continues done. Yeah, thank you very much. Take that down to D1's just perfect.
Did GG?
With the medial time up at
Did GG, he quits?
Well, how is he gonna come back, John? They're 14k behind. It's a hard come. He's just had enough.
Yeah, that's fair. But SAG, man, just a smooth dismantling from GG. It looked like they had a bad time. They were stuck at 4-0. For the first, what, 5 to 10 minutes, they were super behind in kills. But the network was never climbing from SAG. And VG, again, making use of those smallest